I think now we're going to move into a meditation and a channel from Kryon. I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And as you relax, tune in a little further into what's happening in your body. Are there any areas that are sending you a message? Perhaps there may be a pain somewhere you are feeling in your body. And if that's the case, what is it that area of your body wants to say to you in this moment? And if you are in a very pleasant space without any pain, I invite you to tune in to the energy of your heart. What is it that your heart wishes to say to you? And just allow a moment to hear that message. And feel the gratitude and thanks from that part of your body that you have acknowledged the communication between something that is a part of you and has been wanting to communicate with you. And in this gratitude and thanks, we'll move into a Kryon channel, and just remember to continue having this dialogue again and again in the future.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I come to you every single week with messages. And the messages over time have changed. They're becoming more personal and less global. If you take a look at the transmissions, if you want to call it that, the messages from the books of 30 years ago, the first one was global. It told you about an upcoming shift. It told you that you would not have an Armageddon. The book called The End Times was about the end of an old time. Truly a metaphoric title, frightening to some until they read the book. These are global messages. But in these last few years, the messages are becoming more personal. And the reason for that, dear ones, is because the relationship that you are having with that which you call the creative source, spirit, God, is starting to be closer. And that is by design of your own society, culture, and humanism. You have elected with free choice to start changing the energy of this planet. Now, some of you have not heard that before, will say, I don't remember the election. Consciousness is like this. When 1 billion people or more at some level start to understand integrity, transparency, truth, compassion, kindness, and they look in their society and they realize that there's a lot of broken things. As you look around today, right now, in your societies, wherever you are on the planet, are there broken things? And you might say, well, of course, there are always broken things, but now you're doing something about it. Did you notice? That is what I speak of. It is becoming more personal. Quite often we give you a theme for the month, for the 4 channels that will occur, the 4 messages that will occur. All of these messages will be free to everyone. This month, the message, personal, practical, and yet to some very difficult. And that is, how does the old soul light worker deal with ordinary things? And I have selected 4 ordinary things that are difficult for old souls and light workers. And so it is practical, and you'll recognize some of these things, and there are instructions I have given, some in the past, some far in the past, and that I will revive again so you can hear them even now and today. What I give you, I hope you recognize. Because as you start to awaken, I use that term not loosely. An awakening is coming out of a slumber. In fact, sleep is a type of a reality. So as you awaken out of that sleep state and you open your eyes, this is the metaphor for the old soul in a new energy starting to become aware of things around them that they were never aware of before, including a grander truth. We've said this many times. There is a grander truth. There always will be. The more you truly find out what is happening with your soul energy, about the system of your soul, about things that are not exactly as you were told, the more you find out, the greater the awakening. That is what we will call a grander truth. And we've given you many, many metaphors. But what this does is create a different scenario or a paradigm of living. Because you wake up and you realize things are more difficult. Because around you is an entire planet that may not share your awakening. Old souls with hundreds of past lives are starting to awaken first. It makes sense. In the school, you might say, of experience and expression. You go through hundreds of lives, you come in every single time with an Akashic remembrance and a knowledge of what you've done and where you've been at some level. That's what makes an old soul an old soul. So the first one of 4 of dealing with what we will call ordinary things for extraordinary souls like you, the old souls, will be this: dealing with the consciousness around you. Now that includes everything. In the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th messages, we'll talk about dealing with family. We're talking about dealing with workplace. We're talking about dealing with culture. But this is general. How do you deal with the consciousness around you? Now there are some specific instructions that we wish to give to you, but let's first define it better. Dear ones, suddenly does it hurt your heart to be with scenarios that you've always been with friends perhaps you've always been with, and suddenly you're realizing what gossip does. Suddenly you're hearing complaining. You were always so part of it, and it was so normal, because it's what human nature often does. There's no evil there. There's no dark energy there. It's simply a lower consciousness, dear ones. But suddenly, you react to it. And so you are no longer then wanting to contribute to the gossip or the complaining or any of the other things which seem to do nothing but pull everybody down into a dark hole. You wish you could bring up enlightening things and positive things. And if you've ever tried in a group which is invested in gossip, they simply look at you, don't say anything, and move on to the next gossip subject. It's tough. It's tough. What do you do about that? I will tell you there are those who say, well, you remove yourself, of course. And there were days in an older energy when that's exactly what you did. Well, I'll never do that, so I won't be their friend anymore. And so you remove yourself. Dear ones, don't remove yourself. And this is the new information. Here is the premise of the old soul on earth. Are you listening? The reason you're here, are you listening? You exist right now for a remembrance in your Akash, your remembrance of your Akash, of the light from the other side of the veil. You are here to mirror the splendor of spirit. You are here to mirror that which you believe and understand about the beauty of the creative source of God. That's why you're here. You are here to be a walking example of positiveness, of kindness, of compassion, of being able to heal yourself amongst the friends who may never see it, or they might. So you're around those who are gossiping. You're around those who are complaining. Number one, don't chime in with what they want you to say. You may say nothing, but you would hold a positive attitude. Even if you don't say much, they'll understand over time you're not saying much. They may actually turn to you at one time, say, you've changed a little. You're not saying much. And at that point in time, you understand that you're still in love with your friends and they're in love with you. They're friends. You're not going to say anything to them or at them that would change that. You're not going to oppose them or tell them they're wrong. Instead, if you're asked, you might say, I am more comfortable today than I ever have been. I'm seeing some positive things on the planet. And you might then have a list ready. This has happened to me. I've seen this and that. And I know it's a tough thing, but that's why I'm not saying much. And then at the same time you say, but I love being with you. Thank you. Do you see the wisdom in this? Suddenly, you are mirroring the grandness of what you believe. There was a time, dear ones, when if you were too spiritual, you removed yourself. Let me give you an example I've given many, many times. The shaman in the village, in the indigenous, in past times, almost always lived alone. The shaman in the indigenous, in past times, in past energies, almost always lived outside of the village alone, without a partner, alone, outside the village. Have you ever put this together? Because they were so apart from the consciousness of the village that they had to remove themselves. They also felt that by removing themselves, it made them somewhat more accessible for those who needed help, because they would go see the shaman. And the shaman, of course, was an elevated entity. They could heal, they could advise, they could do all of these things. Sometimes they even worked for the chief of the village as shamans, but they were isolated and often alone. One of the attributes of a light worker in the past, even as little as a decade ago, was to sequester yourself and don't be part of society. This also was an invitation to become a little strange. And you know what I mean. There are those who still today say, I'm going to show off what I believe in past lives and meditation and all the things that I believe in that are spiritual. I'm just going to do them no matter what anybody says. And then suddenly you find yourself alone. Can I say it again? Being weird, being different, being too woo-woo helps no one on this planet. Did you hear that? Feel free to disagree, but then think about it. integration with kindness and compassion and wisdom is the goal of the old soul. Not being strange, not removing yourself, not being so odd no one wants to talk to you. How does that help anyone on the planet but yourself? It doesn't. So the answer about being in an old energy when you are in a new one is integrating with wisdom, without combating the old energy, but fitting in a grand way. And don't be afraid that the negativity will rub off on you, dear ones. And we've talked about this before, because that bubble of light you have keeps you protected. Only purity and benevolent things are yours at this time. That's lesson 1. I'll see you soon. And so it is.
I invite you to just let go of everything that's been happening in your world up until this moment. Be fully present in this now moment. It's your time to be fully present within your body, and allow that beautiful body of yours to relax. If you're sitting in a chair, relax further into the chair. If you're lying down, relax further into that position. And I invite you to close your eyes as you relax further still, and imagine or sense that what you are sitting or lying in is so soft and fluffy, and yet firm that it supports you. And as this firm, soft, fluffy support wraps around you, you realize that you have come onto a white, fluffy cloud. And so there's nothing to do now, because this cloud is going to gently lift you up as you are supported in a very firm, loving, gentle way. And the white fluffy cloud is now traveling up, gently gliding over the landscape and bringing you up, over and on top of the mountains. And from this position, you are above everything. Any issues, any problems you have, you are floating above all of it. And in this posture, in this space where we are above it all, we welcome the beautiful, loving messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the second of 4 messages, lessons, if you wish. Talk about how old souls on this planet deal with everyday life. Dealing with that which is in 3D, 4D. These are not lessons that talk about that which you have as gifts from your soul or metaphysical powers or gifts of any kind. This is about wisdom. How do you, as an old soul, with an awakening of an energy that knows things, that knows a wisdom perhaps which is higher than you had even a few years ago, an awareness of how things work. How do you then deal with a planet that is almost exactly as it was 100 years ago? The planet is starting to awaken. That is to say, things like integrity, the things that are in fairness, all of these kinds of transparency instead of deceit, all of these things are starting to shift. But the old soul has a grander shift going on. An old soul can see and feel immediately whether energy is appropriate or not. Things that you perhaps used to do or hear or participate now seeming to metaphorically slap you in the face because of their negativity or their inappropriateness in your life. That's what we speak of. Awakening is that which you are more sensitive, perhaps even, to the interactions around you of human beings or situations. And here you are awakening to a grander truth, understanding the divinity, seeing the light. Here you are becoming a more peaceful person. Here you are with understanding and knowledge about how to heal yourselves, or a process of healing, or how to position yourselves for benevolent thinking or affirmation thinking, where you start to think that which you are and wish to be and control your life. All of that so elevated compared to those you're around. Last week, we talked about what do you do about that? And there are those who would say, well, obviously we run away and hide. And there would be those who have and those who do. It's pretty tough when you've got to go home and face the family, and you go to work and you have colleagues and all that is. Sometimes it's not doable. And then we told you, don't do it. Because sequestering yourself with your wisdom in your life, sequestering yourself from the others, doesn't help one person on the planet. So again, we revisit the primary goal of a light worker. Why are you here? Among other things, it's to reflect the majesty of the creative source. Reflecting the face of God. That's one of the main reasons you are here. I have just answered a question. It is yet to be presented on the show. Question is, why are we here? And everyone wants a linear answer. Well, you're here to build healing centers. Well, you're here to do this or do that. Instead of a thing, what about a concept? You're here to shine light through everyday living, of how you deal with what everyone around you must also deal with. How do you do it in a way that's different? There are really two aspects to this. How do you do it so that you can have peace yourself, so you're not pretending? The other aspect is, how do you do it so others can see it without offending them or pointing your finger at them or saying things you shouldn't say to keep them as friends? That has wisdom attached to it. Saying things properly, so not appearing to be better than anyone else, but appearing to have perhaps discovered something beautiful for yourself. This is always the answer we'll give. Instead of going to others and being evangelistic and saying, well, you ought to do what I do, and here's something you should know, and do this or else, and the things that you're used to hearing in spiritual systems that want to show you something better than you are. But you're not going to do that. It's almost de facto. It's almost that which is anyway. And that is to say, when they look at you, they're going to see balance and peace and joy. We said this last time, when you're in a circle of those who are gossiping and complaining and negative, and you say very little, and they turn to you and say, well, you're not saying anything. And you could say, I just love being with you, and you're my good friends, and I love you very much, and I've just found something beautiful for myself. And then you don't even have to say any more. And they may ask you what it is. Then you get a chance to say what you think. So it's not an evangelistic approach at all. Or is it? Dear ones, I'll tell you something. Humanity is attracted more and more to light. More and more, there are those who say, if I could just get off the merry-go-round, as they say, or the rat race, which they say, of life. And that's how they see it. They go around every single day. They do certain things every single day. And then when they get together, they complain about it. And that becomes life. You've gotten off the merry-go-round. And so here you are as a light worker, an old soul who has an awakening going on, is starting to realize that you can create and co-create peace in your life. This one's about family, the hardest one that we're going to give you. This is the most difficult. And the difficulty is this: you're dealing with two aspects that are not present in everyday life when you simply walk around with people. Two aspects. Number one, blood family. That will be the relations you have. Blood family. They all have something in common with you. When you reincarnated, and some of you reincarnated into this family, there were no accidents. Your mom and your dad, at some level, knew on the other side of the veil you were coming. Or you agreed with them on the other side of the veil, yes, I'll come in. And some of you will say, no, that you've gone too far, Kryon. I'm not going to go there with you because I was an abused child. I would never have said I'm going to come in to be abused. Yes, you did. The reason? Because you were an old soul and they were not. They were just beginning perhaps, and you have come in to help them. Does this make sense to you? You eventually are their teacher by how you now react. Some will say, well, they're gone, and so it makes no difference. Oh, yes, it does. It's how you react to what happened to you from them to others. How do others see your reaction as an abused child? Do you understand this? What wisdom can you then push forward so others can say, wow, I have never heard anyone say those kinds of things who went through that. These are the kinds of things we talk about. Family is the hardest. The second part of family would be the ones you choose. You choose to be with them, to partner with them, to marry them or not, but to be with them. That's the second. There are no accidents of who you meet and who you're with. There are none. You may say, well, yes, I've had a couple of accidents already. And the answer to this is you went through phases of life for them and for you. You both learned things from certain kinds of relationships. It's tough to go home in the holidays for some of you, very tough, because you hold within you something that's so different than they've ever seen before that many of them actually make fun of you. What's your reaction to that? Do you sulk? Do you go off into the corner? When they call you names at all, do you cry a little? Or do you let it bounce off of you in a way that you know is correct? Names are just names. You are looking at their dysfunction. Anytime a family member turns to you, makes fun of you, you can see it like they're still in black and white, you're in color. So what do? You don't admonish them. You don't tell them they're fools. Instead, you hold that color to yourself and show it to them by being peaceful with it, by smiling. There is such a thing that is called karma. You've dropped yours, others have not. Perhaps they are there to be the sand in your oyster, as they say, or to poke you a little. Did you notice something? That if you're not pokeable, if you do not react to a family who is pushing your buttons, if you don't react to them, they stop pushing. Did you notice that? You're no fun anymore. And then they start wondering at some level, why? My partner has experienced this. When he'll go to a place where there's fun being poked at him for what he believes, and everyone will laugh and all, and then later one will come around and say, we're sorry we did that, I'm sorry I did that, and I want to know something, Lee. And you say, what is it? He says, how do you do it? How do you stay peaceful and be joyful, and we know you're not pretending through all of these things? We see you're different. Bingo. Have you seen what you've done? Light shows itself. When you have relationships that are souring or have gone bad, there's a temptation to say, I failed. To some of you, you'll say, I failed again. Some of you have blamed yourself over and over and said, well, I really can't hold on to a relationship because there's something wrong with me. Introspection is excellent, but I'm going to tell you, old soul, more than not, what has happened is you have levels of awakening. And what was fine in 1 year becomes less fine in another. It's almost like you're climbing a ladder of awareness and perhaps your partner is not. And there comes a time when when things which were acceptable before are not. So rather than having failed, dear ones, you've simply grown a little. How do you treat the one that you've left? That is the secret. No matter what they say, how do you treat them? Do you treat them friendly, with respect, no matter what? If they call you names for what they think you've done to them, by leaving them, for instance, or vice versa, can you hold on to the benevolence of what might have happened in a way that is wiser than anything they've seen before? Those around you will see this, and at some level, they will see this. This is you reflecting the face of God with family while you're on the earth. I just gave you a very profound message. I'd love to have you listen again to it because it answers some of the questions that are so difficult. What do I do? Finally, I'll say this. If you're in a relationship, dear ones, and this is the question so many have asked, and it's untenable, what do you do? And the answer is, indeed, there'll come a time when you may have to leave. And that is controversial because there are those who say, when you have a relationship and you've made the promises and all, you must stick it out. And the answer is, if you stick it out, in some cases, you make both miserable. There, I've said it. That's an answer to another question, which has not yet been put in the portal. Dear ones, you're here to reflect the face of God. You're here to hold the wisdom of the Creator. And so it is. It is.
And I invite you to place your hands on your heart and just connect. Connect in with this beautiful organ that effortlessly beats within your body without you even consciously thinking about your heart. It is always there, constantly beating a rhythm, sustaining your life. And surrounding that beautiful, precious heart of yours are the energies of all your ancestors, all of those who you have loved and have ended their time on earth and are still with you in a multi-dimensional way. And we don't need to know the details of how it happens. We simply need to acknowledge that it does happen. They are there. They are loving us. And in this quiet moment, perhaps you may even be feeling, sensing, or receiving a message of love from someone you have loved or an ancestor communicating with you right now. And if they had a message to share, their message is this: bravo, congratulations, because you are never truly alone. We are always here in support of you, and we honor the journey you are on. We give you again the phrase from Kryon: you are never alone. You are dearly loved. You are magnificent. loved beyond measure.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. We have been giving you a series of messages and some advice. And the messages today are different than the messages perhaps of 10 years ago. And the reason is that the energy on this planet for you, surrounding you, has changed. And the changing of that energy has stimulated something in old souls. You take a look at who would be watching this program. A program like this, many years ago, would not have viewership. And that's a fact. My partner even tried things, thinking that many would be interested perhaps in viewing the channelings and the messages and all that. And yet few were. I'm here to tell you that this very process of watching, as you're doing right now in the media that you're using right now, is new. But what's truly new is that those who are interested is almost exponential now compared to 20 years ago. Something is happening to awaken those with a question. Is this real? Is there something more here? Why do I feel something when I hear the words or even the voice? That's a question even of today, even in this program today. An awakening is more than just knowledge. You awaken perhaps to more light. And how would you say that? You'd say, well, yesterday I didn't have as much light, today I do. Well, that is not what really truly is happening. What is happening is you're able to see more. It's not about the light. It's about the concept of what you now can see because of the light. And what are you seeing now because of the light that's different, let's say, than 10 or 20 years ago? And the answer is there is an awareness. You are seeing far more than you ever did, far more than you were ever told. You might say it's like you're looking at a large room that suddenly is illuminated more, and you say, oh my goodness, this room is a lot larger than I was told. And look over there in the corner, there's something moving. I wonder what it is. Some will get up and go to the corner, and some will say, stay put, because it's scary. Just don't, it's worked for you so far, hasn't it? So why move? And the others will say, I have to know, I have to know, I have to know. And they will go over and they will see that motion in the corner. Kryon has even given a parable about this, and what they will discover is a grander truth, more of themselves, perhaps another door to another place. That's what's going on right now. And so it changes you. It changes your perception, your awareness. It changes also what you're like. And here's what I mean. So many human beings, including yourself, including my partner, are guided and shaped by what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy. And early on in your life, you draw lines of what you like, what you don't like, and they alter themselves slightly as you grow up, but you come out as an adult and you'll say, I do this, I do that, here's what I like, here's what I don't. If the room gets bigger, there are more things to like, and there are more things to examine perhaps and say, no, not for me. And that's what's also happening. You'll have those who are now awakening saying, I no longer wish to do this or participate in this, and I wish to do this or that, because the consciousness is raising, and so are you. So your likes and dislikes are different. This particular message series is about light workers doing ordinary things and coping with the energies of the planet. And this one is about going to work. And it's different from the last one. It's different from a family relationship and what to do there. It's different from just an average of walking around with people and what happens there. And we've covered there 2 of those, and this is the third. So let's speak of that. Once again, the premise. Why are you here? It would seem super simple. Dear old soul on this planet right now at this time, you incarnated on purpose. You were born for this time. Your purpose is to show and mirror the face of God, the face of Spirit, the face of the Creator of your soul, to mirror that in 3D as you walk from place to place. To show those around you what it's like to have wisdom, what it's like to have benevolence and kindness, instead of all of the other things that perhaps that they are used to seeing with individuals around the planet. There are so many humans invested in being a victim, the doom and gloom of it all. There is no hope, being cynical about absolutely everything and everyone, and that is not a surprise, because if you watch your media, they train that. In other words, everything is wrong with everything. That's how you become. But an old soul has a choice to change that. And that's what we're discussing. And that's what the last 2 lessons have been. Now we come to the third one, the workplace. The workplace is absolutely filled with situations. And they're almost endless. You are reporting to perhaps a place with other individuals who are working in team effort with you in different areas and different offices or different factories. For those of you who report to a place like that, you didn't choose them. Now you might say there are no accidents, but indeed, you didn't choose these. You mean no accident that they're there at the workplace, but you didn't choose them on the other side of the veil. They are there as a scenario for you to act with or interact with or whatever. But basically, for survival, you report to these places. And question after question, what do I do about this or that? And so many of those questions are about authority. What do I do about my boss? I wish it were different, dear ones, but many times authority is not wise. In fact, there is a dysfunction in the personality, and they enjoy being the boss. And being the boss to them is ordering people around, or perhaps even worse, being the boss is telling people what's wrong with them. In other words, what I'm telling you is they're bullies. Not all of them. You might have a wonderful, stellar, wise boss that you love, somebody who is in authority. You won't even call him a boss. You'll just call him the one you report to, and you love it, but most often not. They may be there in that position because of their abilities, of their consciousness in the workplace that they have. They know more. They've been there longer. Therefore, they are the boss. But nothing has trained them for the wisdom it would take to guide others. And so they become a bully. This is very, very common. The bully is the one who just relishes being able to be in charge of somebody and tell that person they're no good, or they should do better, or bring them up and bawl them out in some way to make them feel bad. And if they can make them feel bad, it then somehow gives that bully energy. You've seen it. Not all bosses in the workplace are this way. I may be talking to a boss. Do you do that? Probably not. Old souls tend to be a lot more gentle and a lot wiser. But this is the old soul in a workplace that isn't. It isn't wiser. And so many of you have to report to those places. So here's a message for you. I just told you what those kinds of individuals who are in authority, what they feed on. That means what makes them continue. What makes their bulliness even better in their opinion. And that is if they can get a reaction out of you. They call somebody to an office, They tell them they could do better, do this, do that, or they're not good at what they do. Be careful because they might lose their job, or any of these things. Or just on a regular basis, they have a meeting and make you feel bad. Does that sound familiar to any of you? That is quite literally a bully. What can you do about that in the workplace so you don't have to endure what you might say is low conscious, old energy action? Here's the answer. Easier said than done, but that's why you're an old soul. Here is the answer. Don't react. You simply look at them. They may not like that. They may call for a reaction. And if you then have to react in a positive way. Think of something to say. Something to say like, that is all right, I will do better. Even if you are placating them, even if you know that's not what they want to hear. What they want to hear is you grovel a little bit. But you're not going to. If you don't react to these things, I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to get tired, and they'll turn to somebody else perhaps, or whatever, but it won't be you. And then what happens next is so interesting. If you're in a group of individuals that has a boss figure that does this on a regular basis around the table, and suddenly you're not reacting like everybody else, you're not sulking, you're not crying, you're not feeling bad, you're not going back later and complaining, others will come to you and go, what's up? What's happened to you that would create something where you're okay with this? And you can say to them, no one can be okay with this. I just realized that it's the boss's problem, not mine. Just because they may point their finger and call me names or want to do something is not then what is actually happening. I know who I am, so I don't react. So I let them go through their tantrums and all of the things they do that would enhance their bulliness. But I don't react. Do you see what that creates? What it creates is others looking at you. What am I telling you? Why are you here? To reflect the face of the Creator. To reflect the Creator's face and compassion. All of these things, everything you do will create a tension because there's light there. There's a higher vibration there. That's just one of the many things I would have to tell you, old souls, that you have to report and work in a place that are with people you never would have selected and have to endure the personalities. Don't react. Hold that which you have, which is knowledge of your magnificence, and walk accordingly. Don't make other people wrong. Just hold your magnificence. It's a message that's harder to do than some of the others. But you can. It's one of the reasons you're here. Can you reflect the face of God even in the face of a bully? I think you can. And so it is.
So with that, let us have a brief meditation before a channel from Kryon. And with this, I invite you to close your eyes, and in this space, let us acknowledge that within us, within our DNA, we have a spark of the original creation of how humans were created on this planet. Our lineage comes from the stars, and with it, it carries the energy of sacred union of female and male, a coming together that created a spark of light with a seed that grew into a divine human. Within your DNA lies that original seed. And just acknowledge the beauty of those female Pleiadians coming to our planet, carrying with them the seeds of creation. You have been birthed from a divine union. Every human on the planet carries this seed of creation within them. And so we just want to acknowledge the sacredness of our own existence. And we invite the beautiful sacred messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the 4th channel of the month in a series of 4 that we talked about and told you. It's a very common theme that would segment now a subject into 4 sections or parts and then present them later in an audio fashion where they could be listened to all at once. Short channels that become one longer one about one subject. And that's the point. Did you ever wonder, and I'll say it again, truly what the purpose was on the planet? And you might think, well, it's something very high and magnificent. It is indeed, but not what you think. If you wanted to know what the actual purpose of a human being, old soul, like watching this program, is today, what is the purpose? It's to mirror the face of God as much as you can while you walk the planet. How about that? And you might say, well, there's got to be more. Isn't that enough? You might say. No matter what your true purpose is that you think, a task perhaps, something you have to do perhaps, and that is how humans think. Go ahead and assign something to do, but do it while mirroring the face of God. And we've given you some examples of ordinary energies that are difficult on the planet. We talked about the difficulty of walking with family. And we told you that a blood family or a chosen family is different from simply friends, because these actually have energy because you've chosen them before you got here. You all did. Now, this is a very, very difficult thing for many of you to grasp. And you would say, indeed, as I've said every time, oh, I would never have chosen that. That's awful. Not that person to be my mom or my dad or my mate. Something went wrong with that one. No, it didn't. It was for your education. It's like having a teacher in school you didn't quite like, that perhaps rubbed you the wrong way, but you learned something. So there are good reasons why sometimes old souls and new souls come together in a family to teach each other things. And sometimes it's the child who teaches the parent. Indeed, that might be the case for those of you who are here. We talked about the difficulty in the workplace. We talked about other things that are ordinary things that an old soul, a light worker, must get through. We also talked about the principle, and I'll just say it again, that there is a tendency when you're feeling an awakening and a precious new energy coming into your life, there is a tendency to withdraw from the planet and go live in a section of the planet or a place in your city where you can be alone. Or perhaps you can choose your friends and live perhaps in a commune of some sort, so you don't have to work with the rest of the public, which perhaps you feel is a little darker than you are. You've heard this so many times. And history shows that that's exactly what you do. For there are so many examples of spiritual people trying to get away and become in their own conclave so that they don't have to be with the others. By the way, that doesn't often work. It also explains those who are shaman, who go and live outside the village, just in order to be separate and to then continue to absorb that spirituality, which they believed in those old days, by the way, that you had to be alone to have, because you got an absorption rate of the ones you were with. Something today we've even talked about in the questions and answers. You don't have to worry about absorbing negative energy anymore. Old soul, I'll say it again. You have a bubble of light, and nothing gets through it. Not if you've given intent for this. That's why you're here. But today we're going to talk about one that is even more difficult. Because as this energy of this planet starts to increase and show light, there's a lot of darkness which also shows. You know that. The metaphor is very clear. As you turn on the light in some place that has never had light, suddenly the dirt shows. More than the dirt. There are things lurking, perhaps, in the shadows. That's a metaphor. But even that which has happened in your home is that way. And so this metaphor is happening today with the energy around you. And suddenly you're seeing the duality start to increase between dark and light with humanity in your society. And you're seeing it. Suddenly you're starting to see that which is darker and lower energy as something you don't want any part of. And yet it's built into your society. And you can't escape it. What do you do? Kryon, what are you talking about? It's all around you. It's all around you. Opinions. For this society, for instance, for America. Has there ever been a greater division between parties that are political than now? And in that, do you fight now and you didn't before? Does it separate families and it didn't before? And the answer is yes. Are there spiritual issues? That is to say, splits between those of spiritual systems and doctrines and that kind of a thing that are so grand that you won't even eat dinner with somebody who doesn't believe what you believe? And the answer is yes. You name it. And there are things that are showing up that never showed up before. The difference between races and what's going on finally that might answer some questions and bring solutions so that you can intermingle finally in a way that is kinder. Now, I just gave you a word. I'll tell you this, you are not going to escape these divisions, dear ones. You will not escape them. Politically, no matter what you believe, there's somebody else that's going to believe the other way, and they will be light workers. Are you aware of this? There are those who believe that every single old soul and light worker who watches a program like this and is attracted to channel will be one party, your political party, and none of the others would ever be here. And the answer is you're wrong. It's 50-50, just like it is on the planet. In other words, all of you old souls and all of you light workers, you have the same attributes as everyone else. Some of you are interested in one party, some of the other. Now, how are you going to work that when today there is so much animosity between them? Here is the operative word: kindness. Can you have the face of the Creator and meet with somebody who also is spiritual, and you know that they are very actively part of another political party that you do not agree with? Can you come together and decide you won't discuss it because you don't agree, but you love each other? Is that a little too mature? I'll tell you this, it's way too mature for most humans who are involved in this division at the moment. But the light worker on the planet, the old soul, is the way shower. And the more you can do this in kindness, the more others will see it. And they may not be fast to emulate it, but they'll know it's possible. And right now, there are those who don't think it's possible. There are Congress people who don't think it's possible any longer. There are some who will never run for Congress again because they're tired of it and the country has changed too greatly. They say it's wounded. How would you like to be a healer? An energy healer, politically. Let me state it again. All of you will have to go through these kinds of divisions. You have opinions in your society. You'll have opinions about what to do about what's going on between the races. And they may not be the same opinions as the ones that you are with and love. What is the operative word? Kindness. Dear ones, you can be kind to each other. And you can agree that the opinions are different. But you can come together and say, we love this country, the situation, we love each other, we love the planet enough so that we can disagree about things and still come together with kindness. That's the operative word. Easier said than done. That is why you're called a light worker. These are the answers, truly the answers. It will not then get you to convert someone else to your idea. Instead, love conquers all. Dear ones, you can have a situation where you can be divided in an opinion on your society and still be very much in love and very kind. That is the new human being, and that's the new normal. You've heard the word? That's the spiritual new normal. Can you do it? An old soul can. You know how. You do. Think on these things and think of that which is kind to your neighbor, to your family, to those at work. And it'll change your life and heal your body. Because anxiety is a killer, and you know it. I am Kryon, continuing to be in love with humanity. And so it is.